Alright, what have we got here? A bit of a recce of some recent additions to the camping kit of lights and music equipment. So we now have our fairy lights attached to a pole, and that pole allows us to mount with a stage lamp a PAR RGB light, for example. Maybe 3 of those around the campfire. 80 metres of warm white strip light that do about 60 watts at full power, or about 2 watts at low power, which is awesome. And another 15 metres of it running here through the gazebo. So we've got the RGB lights, about 50 watts. Red, blue, green, white actually, I think they are. And they've got the retro to run them off native 12 volts. With the DMX wireless receivers as well, so just a bit of 12 volt lead on into that, and then this ups it to 24 volt, they're 24 volt internal. The mounts on those stage lamps also suit Logitech satellite speakers as well, so that's a handy way to mount your speaker on your rig. The red, blue, green laser, it's not too bright, but certainly not brighter than the little $40 ones you get, so yeah, that's awesome. And it's got the moving go bowl in it to give you different patterns and stuff, and you might be able to see a bit of red dots there just briefly. Yeah, so there's 3 of those LED lamps. You'll also notice there's actually a filter on them, a frosty filter over the top, just like a bit of flat plastic, just to spread the lamp a bit more, otherwise it's a bit spotty. So it takes it from maybe, I don't know, 15 degrees out to about 35. These retrofits have also have a USB connector on them as well. That allows us to run the wireless senders and receivers. One needs to be wired in, of course, to get a signal in from your DMX controller, and then yeah, that sender will talk to 3 or however many you've bought concurrently. So that's everything up there, nice and tidy. Just bear with me, yes, yes. Okay, so down here you've got the moving head unit, and the moving head isn't too bad. Nothing's moving at the moment because, well, I've basically got this on music, and because I'm recording on my Bluetooth phone, it's not sending any audio, so I'll just hit auto there, and that'll step through the sequence of scenes. Hence now the crazy 20, 30 watt, whatever it is, moving head is working nicely. They're a Cree lamp in them as well, so they actually have a nice, pretty pure light on them. Not too badly. So some other new additions, in addition to obviously the DMX controller, of which I've got about 20 scenes programmed in, with, you know, your 3 RGB PAR lamps, your laser, as well as the moving head. So there's 5 in the lineup. The trusty Bluetooth controller with the external antennas, or Bluetooth receiver or transmitter, whatever you want. But I'm using analog now instead of digital, so I can run into a mixer, because on my mixer I need to split it between the trusty Logitech speakers and also the DMX controller, so I can do the sound-based sequencing of scenes. There's also a wireless mic setup as well, which gives a single 6.5mm phono output, which would be mono, so there's an adapter there to stereo, and then of course the mixer has that as a separate level input. So there's 4 outputs, 2 are free, plug in headphones or whatever, and then yeah, the 2 there. Now that does a couple of things. For starters, obviously you've got a mono, you want to split it to stereo, so you need a preamp or a mixer to do that, otherwise you'll bridge your stereo left-right channels. If you just use a Y splitter, although it's moving his vehicle. We've also got a bit of ability to then set different levels between the speakers and the DMX controller. Now the DMX controller's got a mod in it with a preamp down here as well, which gives local access to volume level, just to get the right threshold for it to get the right audio decibel level to sequence the scenes and move through. There is also a retrofitted knob at the back, which isn't a preamp, it's just a pottometer there. And then this one here, which is not with a knob on it, is actually plumbed in, because the original input on them is a 6.5mm sort of mic level-y type thing. I've gone a 3.5mm stereo, you know, 3 volt, whatever it is, to let us hook up to more traditional modern stuff. So that's all that. There's obviously a USB port on the back of that tapped in now as well, and that lets us connect our little desk lamp. This battery here is just charging my phone up and also powering the Bluetooth receiver. Had I had time, I would have put a few more USB power outputs in the back of the mixer, so I've got some local power there. But another way to go about that is to actually just get them and put them in line. You can see there's one down there which is running up to that moving heads or DMX controller, so just one of those little babies there. From 12 volt into 5 is easy. A few observations with the source. So with core power, we've got I guess those LED fairy lights, if you wish, are running off dimmers, which are fine. Awesome. The cheap standard sort of solar controller, they work fine for what we need. And then these, you've probably seen them, will let you know how many amps or ampere hour you've pulled since the thing's been turned on, and how much you're currently pulling in the way of watts, what the voltage is, what you're currently pulling in the way of amps, just for the numbers, etc. And you can see we're fluctuating between, you know, 10 watts and 40 watts at the moment, because there's obviously a sequence of all the lights. So all those lights, everything is all hooked up to that. Things not hooked up to that. So basically directly off the battery is the fridge. And the reason for that is because the fridge doesn't like 12 volts. The fridge wants more than 12 volts. If it's getting 12 volts, regardless of what switch you've set to here, the fridge likes to stop working. So it starts up and there's voltage drop and it dies. So what I've done is, because obviously, you know, we're charging in here, and battery levels change, and we've directly connected some of this stuff up to, you can see here, the mixer and the DMX controller, and I don't know, maybe something else, I forget, there's so much stuff wired up here now, but they're like 12 volts, and you know, electronic components, there's no regulators happening anymore. So rather than hook them up straight off the battery, or use an inverter, run them at 240 volt, I've got them running off the battery with a regulator, one of these little things here that deliver 12 volts. So the idea was run the fridge off that, but no, you can't do that. You actually need about 13.8 volts regulator that they do, and that might be an option for me. So I can run the fridge off that. But I think what I'll do is have a separate circuit off the battery terminals to another one of these. So I've got two, one from a 12 volt rail, one from a 13.8, and then I can see how much the fridge is pulling. So the inverter doesn't like that as well, for the same reason. 12 volts is not good enough for inverter to think it's healthy in supply. So yeah, 12.6 there. So we're using a little bit of battery at the moment. If I crank these up and throw another 60-80 watts in, you can see now I'm pulling about 120 watts through that system, and I'm getting 12 volts there on that controller, which also would reflect the 11.8 at this end, because it's obviously a little bit more downstream with the voltage drop. So this is all really messy at the moment. I've even had to connect a few alligator clips together because I'm short a few Anderson type cables and terminals to go onto the battery directly, etc. There's a bit of rework there. There's a bit of noise through the Logitech speakers when these dimmers are sort of in between on and off. If they're on, so they're bridged, they're fine, but yeah, if they're actually dimming, because they're electronic dimmers, they do inject a bit of noise into the circuit. So interesting, because I'll have to work out where that's coming from, because the Logitech speakers there are actually plugged into an inverter, so that should be fine. So it actually must be more other noise that's coming through the mixer or somewhere else that needs a filter or isolation. An option is I can run these little low wattage sensitive components off a separate battery or something, a power bank, 5 to 12 volt adapters. Who knows? I don't know. Anyway, that's it. That's like, yeah, there's a bit of gear there. So tonight's basically movie night. So we're going to hook that up, and now I'll connect to Bluetooth to my receiver here. There's another option too. You can do. You can hook up about 2 devices to this. If you want to put it in the sender mode. So you could actually have a bank of them and then do like a silent disco. If everyone had headphones, you'd get that. Maybe a bit of latency, but yeah, this thing is nice because it does aptX which is a high quality implementation of Bluetooth audio codec, which is good. I'm not too worried about the analog cables, so they're fine for what we're doing. It's digital, it all goes back to analog in there anyway once you go from digital to analog back to the back of the speakers, so hence why we're just connecting up into that little baby there, and that's fine, even though I'm not using the rear speakers at the moment. I don't need to do any bridging to bring that orange rear channel in. The speakers have got the 2.1, 4.1 and a stupid useless 3D option on it as well. Separate bass control with that, of course, and that's fine. Tried to actually hook up to these little audio headphone output, and picture of the music, so it must be input. Input obviously works. When you plug headphones in there, you don't get any sound out of the speakers, so you can't use this as a way of running an extra audio channel into your DMX controller. That's a wrap, guys, and yeah, it might be time to have a roast. Check ya.